All right, welcome CvCISO podcast listeners. Welcome to episode 61 of the CvCISO podcast. We got a really good show in store for you today. I think we've been, chatting and shooting the breeze before, like off script. Got a little crazy a little bit. We talked about the top 100 rap songs in the United States. Shout out to Glorilla, by the way, for having a couple songs up there. We're hoping that maybe he'll hear this and come join our podcast.
And po'
All right,
boy,
that's
no
not what
more
we're talking
boy.
about.
Young boy never broke
Sticky.
again.
Oh, yeah.
Never.
Yeah, he's flying up the charts.
Well, we got a couple things to talk about. Number one, we're going to talk about the St. Paul cybersecurity
Hey,
attack, St. Paul,
Evan,
Minnesota.
If I can interject real quick, just
You can
so we
interject.
thank you. Glorilla is a she.
Oh, well, she
Yeah.
identifies as that, but I mean, come on, let's not split
Well,
hairs here. It's
Fine.
It's 2025.
I'll stop with the image searches.
I mean, I was just on the phone with he, she, them, there, and we're cool.
Really? They
Okay.
all were there?
I don't know.
It was pronoun soup.
I just identify. I now identify as Glorilla.
I just don't call people anything anymore. I'll just be quiet. I'm just gonna
You over there?
Well,
You
well, this kind of world is like perfect for an introvert because like it's dangerous to talk to people, and it's like I don't like talking to people anyway. So this is like perfect. And I don't have to refer to anybody if I don't talk to anybody. It's all good. All right. So we're going to talk about the St. Paul, Minnesota cybersecurity attack, what we know, what we don't know, and give our impressions on said things. And then we're going to introduce you to Andy. So this is a Meet Andy segment. Like, who's this Andy guy? Why does he keep
Andy's
calling
meet
me?
and greet.
Yeah.
Right?
Cone queso, point down. Keep calling me.
It's over here for me. And then, and joining me is our typical cast. Dave is here and Jordan is here. I'm Evan. I'm the guy that talks over everybody and can't shut the hell up. It's all good. So let's talk about the St. Paul cybersecurity attack. Jordan, what do you know? Give it to us.
I know everything. All right. I'm intimately involved. They brought me in right away. Right away. I said, hey, let's make sure we are completely transparent. Let's follow the incident response plan. They said, yep, got it. Let's do it.
Funny, they called me.
we
They called me right
the fellow.
away. They called me right away, and I was like, we need the Minnesota National Guard for this, or maybe the FBI, or maybe one of the two national cybersecurity firms, or maybe Minnesota, IT.
I mean, get them
minutes.
all. Get them all.
The more the merrier, because we all know how great incident responses go when everybody's panicking in the room.
How big's the
The more
table
you-
we're sitting around?
The more you can respond to the incident by committee.
Right.
Pick them up.
Pick them up. All right. So the way the attack
And-
kind of went down, they haven't been transparent, which is a little bit frustrating, I think, especially if you're a citizen who lives in St. Paul, pays taxes in St. Paul, does whatever in St. Paul, because you're obviously involved in some way. So Jordan, what I want to see out of you, Jordan, when we talk about this attack is the passion, the anger, the frustration, the fear. I want you to get very
Bottle those things
emotional because
down, man. Those are
no,
down.
no. In an incident response, emotion is your best friend.
I pack those down into my double dribbles.
We all make fantastic decisions when we're highly emotional. When's the last time you got into that heated argument with your wife? There's no way you said something you regretted. You said everything you said in that conversation, you meant it.
Oh yeah. I meant every last word, and that's
So when
why I'm single.
when I said, bitch, let's do it, I meant it. I meant that.
Which, by the way, hashtag number 3 on the charts, right?
Of the rap music charts. Yeah, I didn't just make that up. I had to slide that in. All right. So the overview of
If
the
we
attack.
say some
the
weird
day-
lingo, everyone, it's probably from a rap song we just learned.
Yeah, none of the three of us, I think, are rap music aficionados. So we're starting to gain our appreciation for rap music. We did a little research on rap music. And so when I said, bitch, let's do it, that's actually the name of a rap song. That's not actually what I would say to my wife, unless I wanted to get stabbed.
Yeah.
Then we've got
and
another incident response
It fits
to
into
deal
the
with.
conversation. Every word from these rap songs actually fits. It's amazing.
Oh, dude, it speaks to my soul. I've been missing out on this for 54 years. I'm like, what in the hell have I been doing all my life?
What? Yeah, listening to like the Gaither brothers.
Who's the Gaither brothers? Is that a thing? Is there such a thing as the Gaither brothers? I don't think that's a thing. I think you just totally made that shit up.
There's a gospel group called the Gaithers, I think.
All right. You Google that. So the St. Paul cyber attack was detected on Friday, July 25th, 2025. We're recording this right now on August 8th, 2025. Listeners will hear it a week after that, but we're 2 weeks into this incident investigation, or at least when they were detected. And what they noticed, quote unquote, was suspicious activity on the city's network. So 2 weeks, and we'll start from there and cover what we know. Because I think one of the frustrations I have with what we know is what we don't know. The fact of the matter, I think when you've done enough incident responses over the years and you can infer a lot of things from sitting from the outside. You know what I mean? Like based on what they said, this is kind of what I think it really means. So we're going to go through all of that. The nature of the attack. So the mayor of St. Paul, the mayor's name is Melvin Carter. He described it as a quote unquote deliberate coordinated digital attack. Sounds pretty fucking sophisticated to me.
Sounds intense.
That'd be definitely something I would update my resume for. Carried out by a quote unquote sophisticated external attacker. Now think about it. Would anybody ever say like carried out by an idiot, carried out by, a high schooler in North St. Paul who was pissed off that his dad just lost his job at, the St. Paul city government? No, they wouldn't say that. So it's a sophisticated external attacker. So I'm still feeling like, wow, this is impressive. It's targeting the city's information infrastructure. It was explicitly stated that this was not a system glitch or technical error, but a criminal act.
So I'll make sure we know who to blame. Not any of us. It's the criminal.
And so far,
Yeah,
you
for
have
sure.
not used words like DNS or intern as a fall person.
No, not yet. The type of attack, this is what we know. The type of attack, the attack involved malware. Now, you might just jump from, oh, it's the malware, so it must be ransomware. There's been no public acknowledgement that it's ransomware. It probably
Yeah,
is,
and-
but one of the things in incident response is you never make assumptions. As much as you can, you try to follow where the evidence takes you. So what are we going to say, Queso Malo?
I was going to say that in everything that we were looking at, there's implications that it was ransomware, but there hasn't been any, hey, this is what the ransom is.
Right. Well, that's part of it too. So, I mean, that's one of my biggest. So you'll notice as we go through this, what we do know about this incident is the frustrating part is what we don't know.
Yeah.
You can, when we go through talking about this, it'll become obvious that, at least in my opinion, that the city of St. Paul either didn't have an incident response plan or they had an incident response plan that wasn't effective. Because you'll see as we go through this, the communications are not consistent. The communications are not transparent. The communications don't give off this impression of credibility, of trust, which is so important in an incident response. I've always told people in an incident response, you have a moment of time to control the narrative. That moment of time to control the narrative is the time between you identifying it and the public finding out some other way, right? So you have a chance to like, okay, how are we going to craft this message to make ourselves look good, to make ourselves look like we've got this under control, to make us look like whether you do or not or don't, that's part of the communications, right? Is to give off this impression. And I don't see it in any of this incident response. And you also see one of the things as we get through it that tells me that they don't have an effective incident response plan is the number of people that you've got involved in conducting the investigation. I mean, it's like, what? Why? So we'll get through all that stuff.
I wonder where they're
Anybody else got
ordering
anything to
lunch
add
from.
so far? What's that?
I wonder where they're ordering lunch from for all those people.
Asking real questions here.
Con queso or mas queso malo?
Yeah. And does that lunch come with cheese?
Can we
Right.
order 1,000 tacos?
Right.
Con
To
queso.
go.
No, the only thing I'd add to that before we dive in is just everything you see is just like legalese on what's being said about this. There's just no
Right.
transparency and there's no updates, just of, hey, here's where we're at. This is what we've done, because there always will be information that you can share. And the more transparent you can be within those parameters, there's the credibility and the transparency,
Right.
Yeah,
from
Dave,
a
that link
legalese
that you shared
perspective,
from St. Paul's website, it's like when I was reading that statement, I'm just kind of like fluff, fluff, fluff. It's just talking
Right.
about all the people that they called and how it's just like, okay, there's nothing in there to help me understand what's happening.
no, the communication sucks for sure. So the
Yeah,
type
I
of
mean,
attack, like I said,
What's the motivation? I mean, if you're not asking
For
for
who?
money, you just want to tie up the government for a while. You're angry
Although
at
they're
the
asking
city of
for
St.
money.
Paul. I mean, they got to be,
there's
right?
there's
Gotta be.
There's a lot more going on behind the scenes that you don't know. And that's part
Gotta
of
be.
that's part of the thing
Right.
that's frustrating. If it's a malware, if it's a ransom, because you've also got like, we need to protect the city. We need to do what's best for our citizens, but then you also need to do what's best for the community. So in your sharing of the information, in your transparent sharing of the information, if you have any indicators of compromise, if you have any TTPs that you can share with the community so that other cities can look for the same thing
Right.
to get out ahead of this, because chances are, if this was truly, and I'm guessing it probably was, a coordinated, deliberate attack. I don't know about how sophisticated it was, but this is probably an attacker who's targeting public sector, probably targeting cities, K-12 school districts, counties. You know what I mean? And the reason why those are such great targets is they always pay. They always pay. As
Yeah.
long as you hit them hard enough and they can't get back their information in any other way, they'll pay. They have the ability to pay. They're not going to go out of business. You can ask for a larger ransom. They'll just go into the coffers. And if they have to go into debt and, issue some bonds to cover it, they'll do it. Because you can't put the city of St. Paul out of business, right?
Right.
It's a fantastic target. So I'm frustrated on the fact that they haven't been transparent enough on sharing for the public, the people that are affected, because at the end of the day, Jordan, that's your information. That's your city. It's not the mayor's city. It's not the city council's city. It's not the IT employee's city. It's your city, right? And so I deserve better. I'm not upset about the fact that that there was a successful attack. That's going to happen. Logic tells you it's going to happen. This isn't about risk elimination. This is about risk management, right? So if I know that an attack is inevitable, and that's the same for everybody. It's the same for me personally. It's the same for you guys personally. It's just a matter of time. If it's inevitable, then wouldn't it be prudent for me to plan for it?
Right.
And when I look at this incident response and what I see so far, I don't see good planning. Now I could be wrong because there's a lot more information to come out. But what are we to do with this? It pisses me off from that perspective, because people suffer from shit like this beyond your political career. It's do the right thing. So the type of attack, malware. Go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought you were talking earlier about, like, I asked, what are the instances that maybe it does make sense to hold your cards close to your chest?
Yeah. And there's really only two main reasons why you would do that. Number one, it's going to compromise the investigation in some way. But play that out, right? If we say it's ransomware, is that going to, what at this point, what even in a couple days into this is going to compromise your investigation by sharing maybe the malware strain, sharing with what you've seen in terms of indicators of compromise, potential DNS servers that might be involved in the command and control, all these things. It's not going to compromise your investigation. It may compromise your investigation early on in an investigation if the attacker didn't know that you were investigating, because you could tip them off and they could detonate, stuff like that. But that's not here, as far as I know. That'd be one reason. Another reason is legal liability. But and I'm not a lawyer, right? But I've seen enough of this shit. That's a double-edged sword. If you're not transparent enough, that could lead to additional, potential legal consequences, or if you're too transparent. But the fact of the matter is, like, us sharing the ransomware thing, if it is ransomware, us sharing indicators of compromise, us sharing these things, that's going to be found out in discovery anyway. You know what I mean? So sharing that stuff publicly, there's really no legal, as far as I know, any legal consequence of being more transparent here.
Sure. Makes sense.
Another third reason, I guess, potentially could be, just leading to additional impact or disruption in your own business operations, copycats, shit like that. But none of those exist, right? And so it's frustrating, because if you had prepared for an incident response, if you had done tabletop exercises, talked about these things, you would have already talked about these things. You know what I mean? You would already had this discussion about what things do we share with the public, what things do we don't, because there's two communication streams that you always got to handle in an incident response. One's the internal communications and one's the external, and they're different communication streams. So I don't know. I can speak on that all day, because not everybody, that's the biggest thing that people, I think, get fucked up, excuse my language, on an incident response is communications. It's not how technically expert your incident responders are in forensic investigations. No, it's almost always communications.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the other thing you made me think of on something you were saying earlier is not even controlling, but supporting the narrative of what's happening. because if you come out and you say nothing in like what the St. Paul's public statement was, you leave that open to interpretation by the
Right.
public. And that never works to anyone's favor. You know, just go to the comment section in any post and you'll see the sewage it goes into quickly. Whereas
When
if
you've
you
heard
could
me,
just go ahead, sorry.
yeah. No, I mean, you've heard me say it numerous times. And this is one thing you always got to keep in mind with communications is empty spaces always get filled.
Mm-hmm.
They always get filled. So any gap in your communication. So when you're drafting a communication to go out publicly or internally, whatever, whoever your audience is, any lack of transparency, those are gaps and they're going to get filled with something. They're either going to get filled with assumptions, they're going to get filled with rumors, they're going to get filled with something. Right. So you have to be really clear on where those gaps are and how you're going to account for those. You know, if you're opening up phone lines for people to call in, I don't know if there's a phone line that St. Paul has set up for, you know, concerned citizens to call to get more information. That's always a good thing to do because even if you don't have answers for them, people and incidents just want to be heard. They don't really give a shit about answers right now. Usually it's an emotional response, you know, out of the gate. What you would do is in your communication, you'd work through all right, where are the gaps in the communication because we can kind of anticipate what phone calls we're going to get, what questions people are going to ask. You'll have the emotional calls, and all you want to do is you don't even answer their questions, you just talk them off the ledge. But the people are like, "What about this? What about that?" You've got the gaps and you've got the communications on the phone lines for those guys to answer that call from the script. But it's not hard. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's what every prudent organization should do,
Sure.
especially a public organization.
Yeah.
And when you get like pissed off, like I'll be honest, man, I'm pissed off at St. Paul. I don't live in St. Paul. It doesn't affect me personally at all, but I get really pissed off when people get taken advantage of. You have a lot of people who live in that city, a lot of really good people. You have a lot of really good people that work at St. Paul, but due to the shitty preparation, dare I say negligence. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't define negligence in a court of law like lawyers do, even though I think they suck at that. They suffer for this. Somebody's going to have to pay for this. You're going to have to pay more in taxes. Two national cybersecurity investigation firms that you have in there, they ain't cheap.
Yeah.
$150 to $600 an hour, probably. And if they've been there for 2 weeks already, I don't know, you do the math. It's not cheap. And if there was a ransom too that had to be paid or, you know, whatever, yeah, I don't know. It's expensive shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead, man. Sorry.
No, I was just going to piggyback on what you were saying because, yeah, it's the citizens that are going to pay for this in multiple ways. Financially, they're the ones that are impacted. It very well could be their data, all of this, and the people that were responsible for how to respond to a situation like this, knowing very well it could have. Yeah, it just, that's where, I don't know, it may be negligence, but they're servants of the city. They're the servants of the taxpayer. And somewhere that all fell apart.
Right.
Yeah, and when you
We've
talk about
got
the
this
empty
huge
spaces,
accountability problem.
Yeah.
when you talk about the empty spaces getting filled with speculation too, it's even more when you see like when they call in the National Guard right away and the two national firms, and so like the information they do share is this grandiose like thing, and so yeah, the amount of speculation that goes into, well, why did they do that? You know, like what's going on, like all over this.
Well, that's their shitty attempt to establish credibility. Like
Right.
we've got everything under control. We've got all the experts here. But in a real incident response, I don't need all the experts. I just need one. The more, the worse. Like you put a bunch, you know, take 5 of the best information security people you know that have the biggest ego, put them in a room together and see what gets done. Not a fucking thing gets done because they all sit and, you know, it's all pissing contest. And it's so, you know, I think I walked into like one I remember, and this is years ago. I can use the name and everything, but Ridgeview Medical Center in Waconia. So I lived in Waconia and I had done work for Ridgeview. I helped them build their incident response plan, but I hadn't done work for them for years, right? Other customers or other employees had been serving that customer. Fantastic customer. And, you know, everything, you know, was Friday night, whatever. I did my normal Friday night thing, which isn't really normal because I have no routine, but I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and my phone was like full of voicemails. I'm like, what the hell? I start playing the voicemails. Evan, we got an incident, blah, 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 you know, ransomware, blah, 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 and all this shit. And I'm like, okay. So I called them back and I'm like, what's up? Like, we've been trying to call you all night. And I'm like, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I was like, to say it was John. Like, hey, John, do me a favor real quick. And he's like, what? Grab your incident response plan. All right, I got it. Where does it say on there to call me? Why am I your guy? I mean, if you want to put it in the plan, then put it in the plan and let me know. Then I'll answer your fucking phone call. But the fact of the matter is, you're not following your plan. Like, he's like, well, can you get in here and help us real quick? I'm like, sure. I should shower probably. I was living in Waconia, so it was just down the road. I drive in there, and there's the big conference room, probably seating for 12 at the table, and then outside chairs and shit. Walk in there, it's full, like full. I'm like, all right, what's going on? And talking, everybody's like talking. I'm like, hold up, let's just go around the room and figure out why you're here. You know what I mean? Because I'm guessing we don't need this whole room full of people, and not get anything done. So I went around the room. Lisa was there, right? And I knew the voice on the phone. That was Chris Gabbard. And I'm like, Chris, do you know why you're here? And he's like, no. Like, all right, I don't either. We'll call you back if we need you. The FBI was on the phone. The Carver County Sheriff deputy was sitting right here, to my right. I asked him, what are you doing here? He's like, I don't know. Well, you can go. He goes, well, do you mind if I just stay quiet and just observe this? I want to learn. I'm like, yeah, feel free. We had the cyber insurance company incident response team on the phone. It was just nothing had gotten done. So from whatever time they started those calls, which I don't know, it was probably like 10 o'clock at night until I got there, which was probably 10 o'clock the next morning, just chaos. You know what I mean? And then I asked, do we have containment, right? That's really important for us to get containment on a ransomware attack. We want to stop the spread. We got to get it into a bucket so that we can start cleaning our bucket. Do we have containment? And they all look at each other, even the incident responders from the insurance company. Well, I think so. What do you mean you think so? This is really important part of our, because I need to know our status, I'm like, well, let's just start with some basic things about containment. Do we have any site-to-site VPNs, set up with other hospitals, other healthcare systems? Yeah, we got some of those. Are they still up? Yes. Shit. Okay, give me a list and take them down. Call them, get on the phone, take them down. Well, one of them was Essentia. Essentia Health is up in the northern part of Minnesota, another health system. Well, that's also one of our customers. I'm like, shit. So we had a site-to-site VPN set up with Essentia. I need to get on the phone with my team and have them start doing some threat hunting to make sure that Essentia is safe, right? We've got containment, at least from that part. So long story, there's a lot. I should write a book on this fucking story because there's a lot to it. Eventually ended up with an FBI and CISO joint statement from this little thing. It's crazy. But the point is, having an incident response plan saves you time, saves you money, saves you panic, saves people jobs. It's just, there's no excuse at all, zero, for any organization anywhere to not have an incident response plan. Mm-hmm. No excuse. And so when you talk about negligence, why wouldn't that be? And this is why I don't like lawyers in our industry. Like, it's inevitable. It'd be prudent to have an incident response plan. Do you agree? Yeah, I agree. Then why isn't it negligent to not have one? It's not. In my opinion, it is completely negligent. In the legal community's opinion, maybe. And that's the part that sucks with this accountability thing in our industry is nobody's willing to make it black and white. Like, if you just said, if you don't have an incident response plan and you don't test that plan with tabletop exercises twice a year, you're negligent. If you set a precedent on that, then watch every organization in the United States work on an incident response plan and start testing it. Mm-hmm. It's that simple, but here we are. And the reason why I get passionate about this too is I've been in this industry now for 30 some years. We've made zero progress on this shit. It really pisses me off.
I think sometimes, like, being someone who kind of works with a lot of smaller businesses, I think that the gap in their understanding is that they think it's maybe overkill to have, like, they think that they have a plan, and that plan is call someone, call their MSP, call Evan, and it's in their head. It's not on paper, and they don't practice it. And the person might not even know that that's what, but it takes kind of like, actually Dave was helping me go through with a client this week where I'm helping them put together an incident response plan. And it took a while to get them to the table. And I feel like each time we meet, the scales are kind of coming off of the eyes. Like, oh, I see why this is valuable. Oh, okay. So we have all the contacts in one place and we know who they are and they know who they are. Like, even just that, because I think it's a small enough business, we're going to try to dwindle it down to a very small document that's usable for them. But you can see it didn't click before. They thought, well, I'll call Top Dog. Well, you see how that's not
Well,
quite enough.
but in truth, that could be your incident response plan. There's nothing wrong with that. No two plans are supposed to be the same. What works for me and my incident response isn't going to be the same for you. So if the incident response plan is nothing more than call Top Dog, what's wrong with that? And then you make sure that Top Dog is aware, right? And then you can do whatever playbooks and things you want to do on that other side of it. At least that's a start. I think a lot of people get paralyzed on like, oh my God, incident response plan. That's so overwhelming, like a 30-page incident. No, no, no. It could be 1 page. It could be 2 pages. It just need to start because you can't improve something unless you have something to improve.
Yeah.
So it's a maturing process. You just start with one plan and it might have, police department, Top Dog. If you have cyber insurance, you better damn well have your cyber insurance contact in there because that's the number one denial of claim in cyber insurance is timeliness of notification. So in your or in your insurance policy, there are requirements for how you contact, when you contact. You got to make sure that you stay in line with that. Otherwise, because insurance companies, that's the thing that some people think too. Well, the insurance company is my incident response plan. That is so stupid. Sorry if that is you listening, but because the insurance company doesn't work for you. They don't work for you. They don't have your best interests in mind. An insurance company is in business to make money. They lose money when they pay claims, right? And so if they're your incident response plan, they also, have breach coaches, right? And so breach coaches, if it's a ransomware attack or something, they would negotiate the payment of the ransom. In some cases, you can't pay a ransom. If it's the wrong ransomware group, if they're on the OFAC list, OFAC list is maintained by the government of people that support terrorism. So if your payment party is on the OFAC list, you can't pay them anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to think this stuff through. An insurance company, they'll pay the cheapest person. They have what's called a panel. The incident response teams are on what's called the panel. They're pre-negotiated rates for the insurance company to use these teams to do the incident response. So the pre-negotiated rate means it's probably cheaper than what the company charges in the market, right? Tells you you're probably not going to get the top guys. You're not going to get the top dog on the incident response. And their job is to get this company back up and running as quickly as possible with the least cost possible. That means you cut a whole bunch of corners when you do an incident response. So that's also not a valid incident response plan, having cyber insurance.
And
But
you
there's
were
a lot of
saying
people out there
something
that preach
earlier
that
about
shit.
of all the people that St. Paul is saying they brought in, it didn't really say anything about cyber insurance. And you made an interesting comment that they probably aren't insurable.
No, the state of Minnesota is not insurable. And I know a lot of city governments and counties are not insurable.
We're
So then what
their
they try to
insurance.
do to get
We'll
what they try
foot
to
the
do to
bill.
get around that though is they try to self-insure.
So
You'll see a group of counties or a group of cities get together and form some kind of a foundation, association, something to try to self-insure. So their own group will insure. It's kind of weird, but I think it works. Like Minnesota League of Cities, I think maybe has something like that. There's 800 some odd cities in the state of Minnesota, and I think they have an insurance component to the membership. So they might have some kind of insurance that way. I don't know. And not your traditional commercial lines. But anyway, should we get on to the type of this attack? Sorry, I'm stuck.
No, I was
I keep
just going to
talking too much.
say that with what we're describing, we're talking about it within the realm of cyber, but that happens in other forms of risk as well. Just even out here in California, insurance companies are stopping due to fires. And same thing happened with earthquakes. So California said, all right, we'll set up our own fund for it. And it ain't going to play out well when that earthquake hits.
Anytime you try to take shortcuts, I mean, I'm so grateful for my father, being the Marine Corps man that he was. I mean, he kind of beat it into me that shitty choices have consequences and shortcuts are always shitty choices, So if you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
The other thing I was going to say real quick was just even on, and we'll share it in the description when this gets posted, but from that St. Paul official statement, it says at the very bottom, last edited August 1st. And if we really wanted to be transparent and had some updates, you could easily say, okay, keep what you had there. Say, now we've updated. It's been a week. So here's the updates within the week, just to keep the community and other.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So the type of attack, getting back to the St. Paul, uh, we know it involved malware. We don't know what type of malware. We don't know what strain. With the threat actors attempting to infiltrate and disrupt city systems, potentially to steal data. And this is, I'm hoping that the state of, or the city of St. Paul knows the answers to when we're saying like potentially to steal data. 2 weeks into the incident response, I hopefully they have an answer specifically for that, but this is just what we know from publicly. So potentially to steal data, disrupt operations, or extort the city. While the precise nature has not been fully disclosed, it bears hallmarks of a ransomware attack, though no ransom demand has been publicly confirmed. So 2 weeks in the dark about that. The impact on city services, the system shut down. So the system shutdown was initiated by the city. Some of it might have been ransomware related or some other disruption, but this was, I think, self-initiated in some cases. On Monday, July 28th. So we have the original notification. You know, we always say detection, then response, right? The initial detection was on the 25th. Following Monday, St. Paul initiated a full shutdown of its information systems as a defensive measure to contain the threat. So that's good. You're trying to get containment. That's an important part of an incident response. But this led to, and this is like, at this point, you have to go public, right? I told you guys before, like you have a time, you have a window of opportunity to control the narrative in an incident response from the time of detection to the time of notification. Whether it be the public finds out about it themselves, law enforcement tells them about it, a regulator tells them about it, or you tell them about it. You have that window. So the 25th to the 28th, could have been working on all kinds of good shit, but I don't know. Because at this point, now the cat's out of the bag. On the 28th, loss of Wi-Fi in city buildings, including City Hall, libraries, and recreation centers, disruption of internal applications and network access, inoperability of online payment systems for services like water and sewer bills, although garbage bill payments remain unaffected.
Interesting.
That's good. You still pick up the garbage.
Mhm.
That's
The
probably,
operational continuity. What's that?
I was going to say that's probably through a third party,
Yeah.
something outside the network.
So the paper copy of your incident response in that garbage.
Yeah.
Operational continuity, critical public safety systems, including 9/11 police and fire services, remain fully operational despite the attack. Libraries and recreation centers stayed open, but services like public computer access and collection management systems were disrupted. Employee impact. This is what we know so far. City workers faced challenges, with some unable to perform their jobs due to system outages. However, the city ensured that employees would receive paychecks on August 8th. So that's today. We'll find out if that was true. That's really important in an incident response. If you don't pay your people, they stop showing up.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good barometer of loyalty.
Yeah. The city warned residents about fraudulent invoices claiming to be from St. Paul, urging them not to click on suspicious links or attachments. That's really interesting because I don't know if those fraudulent invoices have always been happening.
Right.
Like that's just a thing that happens in the city of St. Paul, which it happens in a lot of cities. And so it's like, hey, just pay attention. Or if these fraudulent invoices are somehow tied back to this incident, that's unclear. I have no idea.
Right.
But it's
Yeah,
an
they're
interesting
leveraging-
gap there.
Hey.
Like, where's this?
Yeah. The payment system is down, so pay it this way.
Yeah, I mean, from an attacker's perspective, sure, but has that always been there? I don't know. You know, are these fraudulent invoices? Are they from this incident? That's
'cause
really quick. That shows a lot of planning on the attacker's part if they've already started that piece.
Well, and those scams have been around, meaning like when you would have like an earthquake or some sort of natural disaster,
Mhm.
the scammers just hopping in with phishing emails along those ways. But yeah, it's kind of like ambulance chasing in a way of let's go follow the headlines and the headlines will determine who our prospects are.
Right. So the response and recovery efforts, so you had the 20, so follow the timeline because timelines and investigations are super important too, right? I don't know if you ever watched the first 48. You ever watch that show? My wife loves that show. Those are criminal investigations, usually of murders, but the investigation workflow is basically the same, right? You establish a timeline, figure out what happened, what events happened within this timeline, and where there are gaps, you have to acknowledge those gaps because then you're gonna have to jump from one conclusion to another. But anyway, so we have the 25th. We noticed it. We start shutting things down. On July 29th, this is a Tuesday now, Mayor Carter declared a local state of emergency, enabling rapid mobilization of resources without needing immediate city council approval. On August 1st, the St. Paul City Council extended this emergency declaration for 90 days to facilitate a coordinated response. Now, this is kind of interesting because on the 25th, you notice things. 28th, it seems like the only things that were really affected that we know of is Wi-Fi in city buildings, disruption of internal applications. I don't know which applications, and you can't collect online payments for water and sewer. That seems like about it. All your critical operations, it sounds like the public safety stuff is still running. So then it's really curious that like in this short time frame, we're declaring this local state of emergency. And that seems extreme to me, but I don't know. I don't know the details of all this.
Yeah, well,
There's
I
local
was
states of
looking it up.
emergency here. Big deal.
Well, I was just looking it up, and the 25th was a Friday. So,
Mhm.
how many city workers are you going to have working over the weekend?
Are you calling city workers lazy right now, Kiso Malo?
No, absolutely no. I would never. We're recording. I would not go there.
Well, then I will. Lazy. Get back to work on Friday. If you've been at work on Friday, maybe this never would have happened. I don't know.
So
But
you
good
think
point.
someone
Lord
was
knows
like
what happened
on Friday
over the weekend.
saying, hey,
Well, when you talk about the first 48, and if that happened on Friday, and then we also talk about ability to you paying people and loyalty.
Well, the timeline is so it was first detected on the 25th. It doesn't mean that's when the attacker arrived. There's a dwell time often that happens. The attack sequence is typically you identify a vulnerability, compromise that vulnerability, elevate your privileges, plant a backdoor to establish persistence, pivot, and delete logs. I mean, that's the common way we've always done it. So on the 25th, it was first detected. It might have been there for months ahead of time. And I don't know what activities specifically alerted them, what suspicious activity, whether it was, a server now is down, right? It's bricked, or if somebody, a client system started to go, offline, or if it was just unusual network activity, who knows?
Yeah.
Lots
Or
of
somebody
speculation
said,
there.
like, the Wi-Fi ain't working.
Right. Or they got the ransomware letter. Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah, it could be lots of things. All right. So 29th, Mayor Carter, local state of emergency. Governor Tim Walz. This is a great political opportunity for Mr. Walz to insert himself and get some fame. Not that he does that. No politicians do that. Politicians are all there to serve us. I don't know if you knew that.
the
So
altruist.
Governor Tim Walz activated the Minnesota National Guard's 177th Cyber Protection Team. Question here. This is the 177th Cyber Protection Team. Are there another 176 Cyber Protection Teams?
You could assume that.
Wow, that's a lot of cyber protection teams. So they were activated on July 29th. So 25th, 28th, 29th, these two things happened. Mayor Carter, local state of emergency, Tim Walz, we're going to activate the National Guard Cyber Protection Team. And the reason why, quote unquote, it's due to the attack's magnitude and complexity, all right? Exceeding the city's response capacity. Well, I'm guessing it's not really hard to exceed the city's response capacity in this case. So the Guard's role includes containing and mitigating active threats, performing forensic analysis and recovery, coordinating with local, state, and federal agencies to restore systems and prevent reinfection. With me so far?
Yeah. And I'm actually
Okay.
taking your dates and looking at how they plot out on the calendar.
Yeah.
Because it happened
So
on a
then-
Friday. Everybody got together and said WTF on Monday, called in the National Guard on Tuesday, and posted that press release thingy on the following Friday.
So you've got the city of employees involved, in terms of the incident investigation. You've got the Minnesota National Guard. Then we've got external support. When and specifically when these were engaged, who knows? But the city's working with the FBI, two national cybersecurity firms, which are unnamed. And if I were to guess, I would guess one of them is definitely Mandiant because they like these things. But I don't know who the two national cybersecurity firms are. And Minnesota IT Services. So Minnesota IT Services, otherwise known as Minute. In the state of Minnesota, that's the IT team for the state of Minnesota. They don't do things typically for counties or cities. It's typically running state and state agencies, but they tapped into them as well.
Might as well.
So the purpose is to trace its source and restore systems. The FBI is lending investigative expertise but no specific details on the firms or costs have been disclosed. They will be. That's all FOIA request stuff, so you'll get that eventually. But the thing is, people have like
Mhm.
a small attention span. They'll forget about this. People will forget about, I mean, how many people are talking today about the CrowdStrike attack last year?
Right.
Sure.
That's still an
All
ongoing
right.
legal saga. But yeah, so that's usually what happens too, is you extend it out long enough to where people will just forget.
Yeah, there'll be
Yeah.
another city attacked
Right.
and they get to steal the headlines.
So restoration progress, this is what we know as of August 4th. So that would have been what, Tuesday or Monday? Some cloud-based systems and customer service lines, for example, the St. Paul Public Library, Parks and Recreation, and Mayor's Office were restored. That's really interesting. Cloud-based systems were restored. Maybe that's other services, including phone-based systems, are gradually coming back online. So that was August 4th. Today's August 8th. No announcement today on we're good now. Everything's back.
Yeah, Evan, it's like, tell me something, but don't tell me something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think
it's a shitty response.
Do you think that that is a strategy? Like, do you think that people do play into the response? Like, hey, if we kind of drag this out, give them like little bits about who we're getting involved, when systems are coming up. If we just do that long enough, people will stop caring about what happened.
I think for people without integrity, yeah. People with integrity, that shouldn't enter into your mind
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're here to serve people. And that's what this whole game is about. I think a lot of times people are like, I was talking to a friend last night, and like as information security professionals, we get obsessed about protecting data, protect data, protect data, protect data. The data doesn't mean shit. It's about protecting people. If you
Right.
lose data and nobody suffers for losing that data, who cares? Right. But if it's data that affects people, that's why we're here. Right. And we're here, protect people. The data security concerns, since we brought that up a little bit, the personal data as of August 5th, 2025, so that was 3 days ago, Mayor Carter stated that the risk to residents' personal data is quote unquote low because the city maintains limited sensitive information on non-employees. Bullshit. I'll call bullshit on that right now. A city does not maintain limited sensitive information on non-employees. Hell no.
It's
Nope.
defining that.
Yeah, I call so much bullshit on that right now. Like, what do you mean by limited? Like, you don't have my DNA sample? I mean, yeah, that's limited. I don't know. But however, the possibility of employee data being compromised has not been ruled out, and city staff have been advised to take protective measures, such as monitoring financial accounts and setting daily limits on credit cards or debit cards, changing passwords and avoiding reuse across platforms. Thanks for the advice.
Mhm.
The investigation status, the city has not yet determined the full scope of data accessed or stolen, and investigation remains ongoing. That's about what we know. And then there was another thing I found while researching this one, but a separate attack happened on July 3rd, 2025. So 2 days prior to the city of St. Paul noticing something on their network. So July 23rd, 2025, North St. Paul's Police Department experienced a distinct cyber attack involving a phishing email that compromised one business email account. This was isolated with no broader impact on city systems, and 9/11 services remained operational. The city hired a law firm and cybersecurity experts to investigate, and affected individuals will be notified directly. Now, here's another hypothesis, because you leave these gaps in communication. It's like, oh my God, it could be this, it could be that. So July 23rd, 2025, North St. Paul, and they engaged this law firm and cybersecurity experts. If there was connectivity between North St. Paul and city systems in investigating that St. Paul thing, it would only make sense for us to do threat hunting on other parts of the city of St. Paul. So I'm kind of curious whether these cybersecurity experts or the law firm or whatever during that investigation, that's what led to the 25th discovery of unusual activity.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they were watching. It's not like, well, they've got such sophisticated cybersecurity systems that they're always watching for suspicious activity. Maybe it's another possible scenario.
That makes sense.
So the current state as of today, this is August 8th, the attack remains under investigation. No public disclosure of the attacker's identity, motive, or whether a ransom was demanded. So you've given the public zero information that's actually usable for them to actually take action on. Nor have you given any information to any other city in the country, any other county, any other public entity that might be facing a similar attack, because you haven't shared any indicators of compromise, any techniques, nobody knows. So also the status as today, some systems have been restored, but many online systems remain offline, and full recovery may take weeks or months due to the complexity of rebuilding secure networks. Hold the fuck on. Rebuilding a secure network. Are we assuming that this was a secure network to begin with? I don't think so. The
Yeah.
most complex, the most secure networks are the least complex. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Complexity is the worst enemy to security. Die on that damn hill, because it's true. So it's not due to the complexity of rebuilding secure networks. That's not the reason why it's taking as long as it's taking, or as long as it might take. There's a lot more other reasons. I call bullshit on that too. I like calling bullshit on these things. Unless you correct me, unless you're willing to put out some information that I can actually use that's counter to this. The city continues to urge residents to be cautious of phishing attempts and fraudulent communications claiming to be from St. Paul. Recommendations for residents and employees, we've already gone through all that stuff. That's about all I know.
That's it.
And there's lots of things that you could infer about all of that shit.
Well,
I'm
like-
pretty critical.
Well, like you said, those buckets are going to get filled.
Yeah.
And you
You're
can
2
take
weeks into this, and I know nothing more than I knew on day one.
Well, I was talking to a client, and the St. Paul thing came up, and they were asking kind of what I thought, and I was like, well, I mean, I don't know a whole lot, and I said I thought it was interesting that they brought in the National Guard so quickly, and she responded with like just to kind of give her perspective that like, yeah, well, it's like, I'm glad that they did, because it sounds like, we really need, them to take this seriously. And as we're talking about it today, it just kind of makes me think that like, yeah, they're like it before dissecting it like this, you kind of miss all the things that they're not sharing and all the mistakes they're making in the communication. There's probably a lot of people that are falling for it saying, hey, oh, good, they're doing everything they can. They've got all the best people in the room, and this is the best response ever.
No.
When really, if
just
you pick it
recycling
apart,
this.
it's
Yeah. Sadly,
know-
it's recycling the same shit we've seen so many times.
and it's interesting because rather than reading it but hearing you say it and ingesting it that way, it's making me realize how much of this was written from can I say it, managing liability. The whole narrative on this is a CYA. And if you read all of the information that's been put out, it's all within that narrative of covering our ass that way versus just, hey, we are in this together. This is what has happened, and this is what I can share you so far. Please take this information, share it with others to help prevent this from happening again or spreading further.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it pisses me off so much, because your job as an elected official is to serve me. If you represent me, you serve me. Your job is not to protect your ass. I give two
Right.
shits about you. You're in this job to serve the community. And until people, I think, you have to read all of these things with a critical lens, because you're right. That's what's happening. The incident response isn't what you would do for the better, for the best interest of the people or the community. Right? You would be transparent. You would share things. You would tell people this is what's actually happening. This is why this is where we're at. So people don't have to be concerned. And it pisses me off because you just take advantage of people. And
Yeah.
you're right. They're numb to this shit. The first breach notification letter I ever received was in 2005. It was the Choice Point breach. So 2005, that was 20 years ago. And back then people were like, oh my God, what the fuck? Because you'd never seen it before. So you were angry about it. But now, since then, I don't know what the number is. I think the last time I looked, I think there's been like 9,200 breach notifications, and something like that. I mean, it's some astronomical number. Whereas people now are just ignore it.
Yeah.
Only 4% of, you take like breach settlements, and I'll talk about this a whole bunch later sometime, but breach settlements, the lawyers on the plaintiff's side make 30 to 35% of the settlement fee. So let's say it's 100 million, 30 to 35 million goes to, if it's a class action, I mean, there's things there, right? 30 to 35 million for the lawyers, at least 65 million of the rest of the settlement. Some of that might go to fines or some other, stuff like that. And then they always write in the language that they set that money aside, and then people have to claim it. Nobody claims it, and I'll pay it. And on average, I don't know what, and I don't trust my data right now, but I'll have to find more about it. But on average, somewhere between 4 to 10% of people make those claims.
Wow.
So I settle out of court. They always settle out of court too, because you don't want to go to trial because you have to go through discovery. The discovery process that sucks because every single thing about everything related to these things now goes to opposing counsel as part of the discovery process. And some of that stuff might end up going public. So you don't want that because then people would see how negligent you really were in the decisions you made. So they end up settling out of court almost all the time. The plaintiff attorneys love that shit, because it's a huge moneymaker. You make
Right.
a ton of money on that side. So they have no interest in really changing things for the better. People are all just kind of blind to it. They forgot about it anyway, like the Equifax breach. I mean, how many people talk about that breach? That was a really bad fucking breach. 170 million people. And like the most sensitive financial information you got is out there. And in that settlement, 4% of the victims made the claim. 4, because they forgot about it. I think. I don't know. Maybe it's too much work to have to click the button and type your name in or something. I don't know. But I think that's the name. That's the way the game works. We don't suffer enough pain, maybe, as individuals to hold people accountable for these things. But logically, that the day of reckoning is coming because eventually it will hurt. Eventually it will hit EMS systems. It will hit 911. People will suffer for the negligence, but we want to get out ahead of that, right? We don't want people to suffer and then learn. I'd much rather you learn before you suffer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's
anyway,
there's
I'm preaching.
enough life lessons learned from this that we can improve upon.
Yeah, I mean, if you were okay, let's do this. The 4 of us, based on what we know, rate what the effectiveness of the incident response, or how good the incident response is, based on what you've seen, on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being like fucking nailed it, out of the park. 1 being like they couldn't even spell words correctly in their response letters.
I'll give it
Start
a
with you,
2.
Mas Queso. Oh wait, Cone Queso gives it a 2. Wow, you are critical.
I thought I was
That's
being
tough.
generous.
No.
I thought I was being generous because clearly they came out with a plan of how to manipulate the public's perception or something.
Yeah.
So
I
you're
see where you're
getting
coming from.
2 points for managing the narrative the way that they have.
Yeah, their playbook is bring in everybody. Make sure that everyone knows you bring in everybody. Make sure they know that the attacker is super smart and doing some super sophisticated things. And then trickle out some information, meaningless information about the phones are coming up, and monitor your credit score, and probably your information is fine. We don't really,
And don't forget the state of emergency and call the governor.
Yeah.
Because God knows the governor is responsible for St. Paul's cybersecurity.
So they executed that well. So I'll give them a 2.
Yeah. Well, now you're making me question what I was going to give them. What do you say, Mas Queso?
I'm going to go 1.5. You said
Wow.
1 would be if they had misspellings in their publications, and I didn't see any misspellings up there. So they were just above that, but not by much.
All right. And Queso Malo, what you say?
Well, originally it was a 3, but I'm realizing I'm the optimist in the group.
I haven't even given this score yet, so you wait.
Okay.
I'm surprised you guys are so fucking critical.
I'll stick with the 3 just to hand the mic back over to you, Low Rilla.
Evan, we had a whole show talking about what was wrong with it. I think we all were ready to give it a 0.
Well, maybe it's just because I've seen enough 1s before, and I'm like, all right.
It doesn't deserve the trophy of a 1.
No, I don't know. I was thinking like maybe 4. They did do, I think some of the things they identified it. It sounds like they responded. If they truly identified it on the 25th, and there was action already being taken probably over the weekend, and then on the 28th to try to get containment, because that's why they were shutting things down, knowing that this was now going to go public. I think that there were some good things about that. I think I would, what takes the 6 points away is they either didn't have an incident response plan, or their incident response plan just sucked. It wasn't tested. It wasn't effective. because there's too many gaps in the way they responded to this shit. Their communications are terrible, like terrible. If you just rated it just on communications, it'd be a 1, because your constituents deserve better than this. You know what I mean? The public deserves better than this. The community, the other cybersecurity professionals working in other cities need better than this. So, anyway, I give it a 4.
That's a great
So-
point. To the point you made earlier, is that like there's, from a technical standpoint, you could probably give it some props. So you had some technical people that were able to isolate and make some of those moves, but communication is where they fail.
Yeah. But I like
So
the
if
fact
we-
that I'm not the most critical one in the room, because usually it's me.
So if we take everybody's score, they average at 2.625.
Pretty bad. Yeah. Definitely not somebody I
Or-
would hire to do my incident response.
Or the optimist says, look, we got a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, it's a baseline. It's a baseline that
So where do we go from here?
Yeah. And I do want to separate out, like before we close this out, I want to separate out city leadership from city employees. I've known enough city employees, enough city people that work in IT and information security. They're good people and they do the best damn job they can. They work long hours. It's underappreciated based on the ones that I've worked with, so don't go thinking that this is a critical, evaluation of them. I think it's shitty leadership. I think you have just shitty leadership from the top down. But I'd expect city employees be like, man, I'm already depressed. No, you great people that do everything they can with what they got.
Yeah, and I would wager they were advocates behind the scenes for what we're talking about. And at some point up the ladder, it got shot down.
Yeah.
That's too expensive.
I agree. All right, well, we're at time.
Andy, I guess
What else
next
do we
week.
have?
Yeah. Sorry, Andy.
It's your segment is cut again. Sorry.
I'm off the hot seat. That's okay.
You're in interrogation. I'll pick up next week.
Yeah, I changed my name to not Andy. All right, any closing
No.
words from you guys? Thanks for letting me vent, man, because incident responses definitely get under my skin, and I vent a lot.
I just want to say I love you, St. Paul. We can do better than this. I'm here for you. Call me.
Call me.
Double dribble.
Just a sticky
Me,
situation all
just
around.
let's do it.
There it is.
No, I would just add that these types of incidents are way more common than people realize. I just really wanted to zone in on this one for how close to home it hit for you guys. And, we just got to keep doing what we're doing and trying to help educate and help those that do want to be helped.
All right, change the names again.
How come you can change my name?
I
That's
don't
awesome.
do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm late. All right. Good talk, guys. Till next week.
Right on.